Well, I'm ready to begin it if you are as well. And get down to the right page so we can
All right.
all along on here.
Okay, folks, this portion will actually begin the actual public hearing regarding the proposed text amendment to DuPont Municipal Code 25.35. Jeff, did you have anything you wanted to present before the applicant steps up? And
Yes, I do, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much. What we have is the city received a request from Mr. Bowles to amend the text of the DuPont Municipal Code for the mixed-use zone within the city. Right now, in the mixed-use zone, we have an area, and it's primarily, if you would think of the downtown core around McNeil Center, Wilmington, in that particular vicinity, in terms of there are certain uses that are permitted and certain uses that are not permitted within that classification of the mixed-use zoning designation. The simple proposal by the applicant is to add one more item to the list of activities that could be considered in the mixed-use zone, and that would be indoor storage. And I want to clarify what that definition of indoor storage is. And this is something contained fully within the building, not what you would typically see in a mini storage facility located in others where it's basically spread out on an open lot and you have individually accessed garage structures. This is completely contained within the building. So the exterior of the building is going to present itself as the exterior of any other building that we have within our core and mixed-use designation. Under our current processes, any development proposal specifically has to go through the design review process and the site review process for the city, as well as the building permits. In which case, we look at the exterior elevations and the design of the building to make sure it's compatible and consistent with the adopted provisions within the city's code regarding building design and building elements, so that you can look at the outside building. From the exterior elevation, you can look at it and you wouldn't know whether it's an office, an apartment, or if it's storage. I mean, if we design and look at the exterior elevations of the building, that is what we would look at, and that is what you can see and how it presents itself. In this proposal, when proposal is simply say, well, let's add mini storage as a component, indoor storage. You want to make sure you clearly distinguish the difference between indoor storage and mini storage, because this is not a mini storage facility. It would be interior to the entire building itself. And part of the discussions and looking at this, one of the things the staff is concerned is that the outward appearance would not be that what you would typically see as a ground developed mini storage facility without exterior entrances into each one of the units. It's only going to be access to a single point of access into the building, and then everything is fed from within. So it would be no different than if you were looking at a loading dock for an Albertsons or a loading dock for any sort of grocery store. Essentially, you would have a single point of access going in, everything would be fed into the storage units from within the building. So that is essentially what the proposal has been presented. We have gone through and analyzed whether or not that would be appropriate, whether it be consistent with what the intent is in the mixed-use zone and what benefit it may provide or what negative attributes it may have in terms of the local, in our mixed-use zoning designation. Some of the things that we looked at as part of the staff's proposal or staff's analysis of it is what kind of facilities do we presently have within the city to service the needs within the community. And I think from my review and driving through the community and looking at the material provided by the applicant, there is only one such facility that is located down off of DuPont Silicon Road, or access actually off the center, very tucked away, very on the back side of the industrial portion of the city. And it's more of your traditional mini storage facility where it's single story, exterior entry to each individual unit within a fenced enclosure area that looks industrial in nature. And that is the only one that's serving a population of over 9,000 or 9,500 within the community. And so whether or not there's no opportunity or if we're providing enough of this type of meeting the needs within the community what we might have. And looking at the staff's analysis and looking at the mixed-use zoning designation, in addition to the commercial activities that exist within the city that could benefit from having storage available for their businesses, we also have a high population of apartment units in that downtown core, next to the downtown core of mixed-use development. They would also benefit by having an indoor storage facility close to them to be able to store whatever they may have in the transient needs, as well as any other member of the public in any other location. In going through our analysis of it, additionally, we decided rather than, the mixed-use zoning designation, and I'll move on to an additional map here. As you can see, there's a fairly extensive area. All of the areas identified in red, and it actually goes off the map just slightly. So you can see some very large areas, as well as where City Hall is located in the adjacent property right next door that is currently vacant. That is all presently zoned as mixed-use development. So one of the things that we looked at is whether or not it would be appropriate to have that broad of a definition or that broad of an activity inclusive in all of these areas, if that's appropriate or not. So as part of this proposal, we actually looked at running a concurrent rezone and providing that it still be within the mixed-use zone. We would create a new mixed-use 2 zoning designation, and the only simple addition to that would be to allow indoor storage within that defined boundary of the mixed-use 2 zoning designation. Creating the new zoning designation, creating the new commercial, still keeping it as commercial, is consistent with the city's existing comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan is not, when we talk about long-range planning for the city, it does not get into the specific as to individual uses, but it talks about the general overall concept about what should be commercial, what should be residential, what should be industrial. And in terms of looking at all those different aspects, that creating a mixed-use 2 zoning designation for the 3 parcels on McNeil Center and going to McDonald Avenue where it cuts to the backside, 1 vacant parcel where the learning center is, and then the commercial property, what would be at the northeast corner of Center McNeil. I think Brewski's is one of the tenants located at that building. It just provides an additional option, doesn't change any of the other underlying zoning provisions, doesn't change any of the underlying uses, all those still would be permissible. It doesn't change anything else, it just adds the additional component of potentially having some indoor storage. Really, we only have the 1 vacant parcel, and that also helps to minimize where we might see these types of facilities and kind of keep it centralized and located in one portion of the city that's providing that opportunity. So, in addition to providing the opportunity for indoor storage and making that as a use that be permissible under the zoning classification for mixed use, in the mixed use zone or in the new mixed use 2 zone, we've also then proposing to do a rezone of just these 3 parcels to create that new mixed use 2 zoning designation. This is not a specific review of a specific proposal of a specific development of a specific use at that location. What it is the evaluation of our code and whether or not the uses within our code should be expanded to allow for some more variety within the mixed use zoning designation. If anyone were to come in and propose a indoor storage facility, it still must comply with all the other underlying zoning requirements. It still must comply with the site plan review. It still must comply and go through its own individual environmental analysis as to the specific impacts potentially that it may create and whether or not they can be mitigated or not. It still must comply with the city's requirements for all site design as well as building elevations and design review to make sure it's compatible with the city's current regulations in terms of the design of the building, the exterior elevations, the appearance of the building, and how it functions on the property, where traffic would move to, and how traffic would flow. So those things would all come about as the subsequent specific development proposal were to be submitted. Still requires right now as a base unit that the minimum 80% of the first floor being devoted to retail is still a base requirement. If an applicant were to come in and propose that, it still must meet that. We did add one additional component in there that there is the possibility that there could be a reduction below the 80% retail on the first floor. And I understand there's some confusion out there. It has a floor. You cannot be less than 25% of the first floor devoted to retail. It can be less than 80%, but no less than 25%. Doesn't mean that the applicant gets to pick the number. If the applicant wants to go below 80%, even if it's just the 79%, there's an additional layer of requirements that's placed upon any application that would move forward. And simply that would be that it would have to be done through a developer agreement. The developer agreement is a contract between a specific applicant on a specific proposal entered into with the city. And that proposal, that development agreement, has to be reviewed and approved by the city council. It has to be done in a public process. Much like this, it has to go through its own review, its own public hearing, its own presentation, the opportunity for the public to comment on any conditions, restrictions, anything that may be contained within the development agreement must be reviewed in a public session by the city council after public testimony before they can take any action. And it doesn't matter if it's 79.5% retail, anything below 80% has to go through that development agreement and go through that additional public process. So as we analyze just the basics of is it appropriate to look at broadening out what we may do in our mixed-use zoning designation? Do we, as staff, when staff did our analysis, do we see some sort of need that might be arise that's unfulfilled based on our present zoning or present zoning within the city? And is there an opportunity to provide something that may be in the central core of the city, which also has the added benefit that if by serving a population near that location, reduces the amount of traffic or traffic that may be associated with having to go to and from the areas of the city and trying to maybe provide that opportunity for those people who are close to it to be able to walk to and access and utilize their sports facility without even having to drive to it, because it does, this downtown core does present a walkable opportunity for those that are located nearby that particular facility, which helps minimize and reduce any sort of traffic impact. In taking a look at and staff did kind of a quick analysis of a document called the Institute of Transportation Engineers. They produce a manual, not every year, but every several years. They've actually gone out and done calculations on trip generations based on a number of uses. And that manual is probably 3 inches thick. I'm not sure what edition they were on, or maybe on about an edition number 15 or 16 right now. But it's based on years and years of collecting data of the uses that exist throughout the entire country and analyzing what sort of traffic impacts that they generate. In terms of looking at the base mixed-use core, if we were looking at an office building generates approximately 11 trips per every 1,000 square feet of gross floor area on an average daily basis. So the trip is defined as both in and out action going off the property. So it generates about 11 trips per 1,000 square feet of gross floor area. A hardware store generates about 51 trips per 1,000 square feet of gross floor area. Hardware stores are permissible activity in the mixed-use zoning designation as it currently exists. What's also currently activity in the mixed-use zoning designation is a gas station. A gas station will generate 845 trips per 1,000 square feet of gross floor area. While a mini storage or indoor storage or storage activity, looking through the IT manual, generates about 2.5 trips per 1,000 square feet of gross floor area in terms of normal daily traffic to in and out of the storage facility. So in terms of uses and adding a use to this area is probably the least intensive in terms of traffic generation and impacts that may affect the area, especially when compared to those activities that are already permitted under our current zoning classifications for the area, the range of kind of activities. I picked just a few in there from office, which is what we've seen develop in some of the other multi-story buildings in the downtown, right off of Wilmington. Pick a hardware store, which is something I've heard has been talked about, which is probably maybe one of the more intensive. Maybe a grocery store might be more intensive than a hardware store. But we can see that it's about 51 trips per 1,000 square feet of gross floor area. And a gas station, which is probably one of the more intensive uses that you can see in terms of traffic generation. Even with a 1,000 square foot footprint for the gas station itself, which tend to have mini marts and so on, they generate 845 trips on a daily basis. So, I mean, that kind of gives you the range of what we might look at in terms of trip generations and activities that would occur. So, taking a look at, in terms of the trip generation, taking a look at the needs that we may have within the city, because of the number of units we currently have for mini storage versus the population, and what we think is probably a deficit in terms of serving our community as it exists today, and even the business that exists today. And taking a look at what might be the most least intrusive, least impactful way of introducing and providing for that opportunity of mini storage. Staff's recommendation is that we would amend the code, we would create a new mixed-use 2 zoning classification. We would look to rezone the property, and we would provide that flexibility in terms of looking at a reduction of the retail floor area, but add on the additional burden of having to go through that in terms of the contract that has its own set of reviews and processes from the city council and the public session. So our recommendation is that we would approve the request. We would add in the rezone of the 3 parcel street and the new mixed-use 2 zoning classification. And I'd be happy to answer any questions from the commission.
Thank you, Jeff. Commissioners, do you have any questions at this time?
Yeah, I do. So the last time we talked about this on July 11th, when this was proposed and we looked at rezoning, we talked about 3 different courses of action. We talked about doing an overlay zoning practice. We looked at rezoning with the new zoning codes to allow for this specific instance or this specific request. And then we looked at redesignated zoning codes throughout the city just to generate opportunities. The only one that I'm hearing addressed right now is this specific proposal, and not looking at what the rest of the proposals could be and how we could rezone to bring in other opportunities besides the proposal in front of us.
Well, it's very typical, and I've done this for a number of years, but staff will always come back with one recommendation. I mean, we may evaluate and do our internal processing through the work sessions we have with the Planning Commission. We'll review, discuss, and evaluate different alternatives and options. We do have a specific applicant-driven request to amend the text related to indoor storage, so we're obligated to respond to that request and consider that request. And so what we felt at this point in time, without doing basically a larger review and wholesale analysis of amending the comprehensive plan to look at a number of changes, which I think may be appropriate at some point in time, we kept it very, very narrowly scoped to just look at the request and the way to do it, I guess, in the most unobtrusive and least impactful sort of way if we could make any sort of change. As I said, the mixed-use zone for the city not only includes everything around the center, McNeil, Wilmington, to that entire core there. There's a good portion on the north side of McNeil that's all developed as multifamily. So technically, it is within the mixed-use zoning classification, as well as the City Hall complex, the adjoining property, which is across the street over here on the outside. That's all also zoned mixed use. So if we were to just simply say, yes, let's add indoor storage, it opens up a very large area. That was probably more than what we needed to look at and consider with a limited sort of scope of the request. We wanted to kind of keep it fairly narrow and constrained, taking a look at it until we had an opportunity to maybe do, as you mentioned, Commissioner Brown, mentioned larger wholesale evaluation of our comprehensive plan. So that's why we came back with just a single request.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So I do have a question too about the 3 parcels. Could a possible scenario be that, let's say in 5 or 10 years, the building that houses Briskey's decides they want to build an indoor storage unit? So would it be permitted to go ahead and do that in that scenario? And my question is, can we just limit it to the one parcel where the potential applicant is?
Yes, and in my opinion, no. To the second question. Yes, any one of the 3 parcels that they decided they wanted to redevelop at some point in the future could conceivably propose that. And it would have to go and be reviewed and stand on its own merits as to whether it can meet all the other elements of the code requirements as part of the review process. So yes, that is conceivable. Even in that building, it might be as simple as going in and doing a tenant improvement on the inside of the building with no exterior elevation changes whatsoever, to take that space as upstairs and maybe turn it into some sort of storage units. There may be other problems in having to do that with the construction of the building, the fire codes, how it would be loaded, whether or not structure is designed to handle that load or not. Those all things would have to be evaluated on a tenant improvement proposal. Or even at I think the 3rd parcel being the learning center, if they decided they wanted to go up and add to the building, or if the building sold and it was no longer the learning center, theoretically now could propose that. And in doing so, it would again have to be reviewed and stand on its own merits and how it would be designed and whether or not it would be done in a way that's compatible with all the existing code requirements. Regarding the question about whether or not we could do it on just a single parcel, I would strongly advocate no. We specifically look at kind of an area that in and of itself is kind of homogeneous, defined, and has some relationship to it. If we start to look at just a single parcel, I know some questions have come up about whether this is be spot zoning or not. I would certainly advocate, and I would certainly say, no, if I'm looking at just a single parcel and creating something, yes, I would say that I would be worried about that. But we looked at kind of an area that is contiguous to each other, has a relationship to each other, that is more alike than maybe other areas, then no, which is why we looked at being inclusive of those 3 parcels right there, because they're more similar and have more similar characteristics Then the other properties running out on Wilmington or even further to the north along Wilmington are going up with McNeil on the other side of McDonald. So, the staff's analysis and looking at the characteristics, the traffic pattern and its relationship, that when you get onto the McNeil side, it's not really a walkable sort of side of the mixed-use area as you can see on Wilmington. Everything is designed out there. Yes, it is still part of the mixed-use designation, but we felt it was enough different that we wanted to treat it differently back there than we made out at Wilmington. It's more, we'd rather go as a destination rather than being at the properties walkable assortments, as you can see in Wilmington. So that's why we looked at those two parcels being very similar in nature and treating it and looking at creating that designation to encompass just those three properties.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions from commissioners?
So, I have, just to summarize, we're looking at like 3 different actions. First, we're creating a definition for an indoor storage. Then we're creating a definition for the mixed use 2. And then we're creating a definition of where we want to apply the mixed use 2.
Yes, in a very simple way, that's fairly accurate. We're changing some definitions. We have a mini storage definition and an indoor storage definition. We're creating definitions for both. I mean, we already have the mini storage, but we're creating one for indoor storage. We're restructuring our codes that they're located in the same. We're calling it storage-mini storage-indoor, so we can locate them in the same section of our code, so you can look one place and find both definitions next to each other to draw a distinction between the two. So we're doing minor amendments relating to those portions of the municipal code and the definition portion. We're creating a new, as you said, a new section in our code, under 25, which is for mixed use 2. Mixed use 2 zoning designation, and that would be then kind of titled as 2536. 2535 in our municipal code is currently relates to mixed use. 2536 would be the new mixed use 2 zoning designation. Again, the primary changes there are the addition of the indoor storage as permissible use, and then the flexibility in language regarding the 80% rule, but only if it goes to the development agreement. That's the only difference you would see between the mixed use and the mixed use 2 designation. And you're right, the third one is that to rezone the 3 parcels into that new mixed use 2 zoning designation.
Any further questions? Hearing none, we'll move on to the Q&A portion of the public hearing. The first person that is allowed to speak will be the applicant, Mr. Bowles. He'll come up and give his piece on his proposal. And Mr. Bowles, just so you know, you're also limited to 3 minutes. Again, we're going to keep everybody to the 3-minute limit, just so we can keep this process moving along. We're not here all night. So again, when you come up to the podium, state your name and address. Keep your remarks to 3 minutes or less, and please speak clearly into the microphone. And with that, Mr. Bowles, the podium's yours.
Mr. Chair, if I just might add as a reminder that if you do tend to speak, either make sure there's a sign-up sheet that's been over on the side to my left here, and there's also one on the podium. Make sure that one or the other of you sign up so we have your name and address written down as well, so that you can receive any additional information.
Should I face this way or?
To the planning commission. And if you need, I've got the whole report on here and all the material, so if there's anything you want me to scroll to, just let me know. Yeah, we do.
Well, my name is Drew Bowles. I'll try very hard to keep this around 3 minutes. So it's going to be tough to do. I would encourage anyone that's here, if you have other questions or want to talk to me, after the meeting, feel free to do so. Jeff, can you pull up some of the photos? Yes, I had sent you. So the first thing that I like to go into is just really addressing, there's one in Columbia City, so Rainier Day, as-built 1. It's not this one. The common thing that I run into when I meet with, and generally it's not in a public hearing format, there's actually a different one there. Can you close that out?
What's that?
Close that one out. go to rainier day as DuPont. That's probably can you set that so business? Okay. So a common thing that I get when I meet with, and generally it's when we are looking at a piece of property that's already zoned for storage, is we go in and we explain to building officials and so forth what we're doing. And the first comment that we get is, this doesn't even look like self-storage. So I'll just say it up front, what most people think of when they think about self-storage is what you've already got here, at best. Sometimes people think of even worse than that. They think of large, sprawling lots, many single-story buildings, oftentimes older, with vehicles and boats and things of that nature parked around the area. And that's not what I built. This is one representative. This is one that's in Seattle. It's in the Columbia City area. And this is really more representative of what you might see. I've got some other examples if you want to close that out. You can pull up one. This is just one that fit really well within the community. You can pull up just about any of them here. There's one in Lake Oswego that you had. Yeah. So we don't have a rigid, defined way that they have to look. We don't have a prototype store. So we're able to sort of shift our design a little bit so that it fits in well with the sense of the community. Fits in really well and looks aesthetically pleasing. All of our stores, we don't go into a market unless we can build absolutely the nicest store in the market. We have all polished concrete floors, well lit, individually alarmed units. All of them are professionally managed. I will mention we're a privately owned company. This is, we're not traded. We're not a large. This is a small family-owned business, relatively small family-owned business. That does this. So this is sort of representative of what one of our buildings might look like. Specific to DuPont, and this is the first time that I've done one of these, is the mixed-use component. We talked about the 80% rule for 80% of first floor square footage, and also the developer's agreement that can modify that. And I think as many of you know, what we're looking at, we're fairly far along in the conversations, is for an Ace Hardware. So the overall look, I didn't bring a preliminary site plan of what we're looking at. Basically, the portion of the property that sits on the corner of Center and McNeil, and on that corner would be the storage portion. And the back side of the lot, just on the other side of Forelli's, is probably where the Ace Hardware would be placed. So we're looking at
Okay, Drew, we're good.
a mount. Okay.
You will have another opportunity at the end as well.
Great.
Okay, any public comments? Again, I'll say it again, please state your name and address into the microphone. Keep your comments to 3 minutes or less, and only one trip per individual to the podium. So come up and say your piece, and then you will not come up again. So with that, I'll open it up to public comments. And I believe we have one right here.
Don Dresser, 1437 Huron Court, DuPont, Washington. You had an inevitable job. I used to sit up there years ago. My comments on this project is aesthetics, what kind of storage, and parking. You're right next door to a facility that has young children coming in there in the morning and leaving in the afternoon. It also seems to be a pickup point for kids going to school. And so that has to be considered on this thing. In addition to that, I think, now I know Beth has been in the city, but I don't know how long the rest of you have lived in the city, We have a new planning manager. And I think at some point in time, you need to have a historic briefing so that you have some background on why things are the way they are today. For example, Clock Tower 2 was never supposed to be apartments in there originally. The city was hurting for money, so they allowed that to happen. Amazon, you know, on and on. The apartment buildings on the north side of Sequatchie Creek, that was never supposed to happen. It didn't follow the original plan for the city. And Wharf Road, which was a public road when the DuPont company built it. It ran from DuPont Silicon Road to the wharf, which was owned by the DuPont company. And that was been a public road through its entire history. All those issues have come up. And I think at some point in time, it has to be a sit down to kind of give you this background of why we are where we are. So you have a feel of what's already happened. And for the people that have been here for a few years, they have drawn based on past city performances of making bad decisions, basically because of lack of information. And I think it'd be very helpful for you, and even get it out to the public, so the public has some background. We have a high turnover here because we have a lot of military families living here, and they're here for 4 years or so, and then they're off to someplace else. So they don't really get that background themselves. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, my name is Bob Winslow. I live at 3723 Toronto Drive, Olympia, Washington. Just have a process deal. You know, it seems like on SEPA, there's not that much information in the SEPA application. I understand it's in regards to rezone, but it almost seemed like the segmentation of SEPA that more information could have been listed because you've seen this beautiful picture of the building and hearing about it. And then Jeff shared some of that with us, but at the same time, there's no discussion in the SEPA about the aesthetics or other things. So let's put it all in one application, or not, you know, because it seems like it's just kind of a hybridization, the way this process is going through. My best interest is I have grandchildren go to the center, and I know with in a house, you don't want things inside your house, you put it in the garage. If you don't want them in your garage, you put them in a shed or mini storage. So I'm concerned about what kind of chemicals or things that might get put in mini storage. If there was a fire, that might affect the urban growth area downtown DuPont, specifically the learning center and the other buildings around there. So what provisions would be put in place to protect the people in the area from unknown items in a fire? I know with fire protection districts, that's always a concern when there's stuff in mini storage. They have no idea if it's explosives. Anyway, shells, what is in those kind of units. One thing I did like to see that there's going to be an Ace Hardware store that created sales tax. And one of the concerns I have, I live in Olympia, and the sales tax revenue isn't my concern here. If you reduce the office space and the retail sales and you just have storage, that's less income for downtown. There's a lot of infrastructure investments for this downtown area. It'd be good to recapture some of that since it's been zoned and planned for that. And that wraps up my comments. But I look forward to seeing more details in the future SEPA.
Thank you.
Good evening, Phil Ambrose, 1849 McDonald Avenue. So I'm opposed to this. I work in Seattle. I work for the city of Seattle and sit on a lot of planning and see a lot of this sort of thing. But I choose to live at DuPont. I got out of the Army about 7 years ago, and we call this our home. The applicants' pictures and so forth, I mean, work for Rainier Beach. or Lake Oswego, but I don't feel like that works here for DuPont. I feel like whoever was planning in DuPont back in the day and designated this as a mixed use district, they did it for a reason. They excluded storage for a reason. As I think you all know, and I'm pretty sure a lot of the people behind me know, the central core part of the city is pretty small. It was small for a reason. And there are limited areas for retail and commercial use. And indoor storage, to me, aside from whatever aesthetics are required of them through their permit process, does not fit with the character and the original intent of Northwest Landing or this city. And by allowing this would limit other services. Mr. Wilson talked about different services that are deficient here. I would agree with indoor storage being deficient, but I think there are other areas of the city that could be potentially changed in zoning to accommodate that. Not the core central part of the city where I ride with my family to go eat at Forelli's or go to the general store to get some groceries, or even potentially Ace Hardware, which sounds like a great idea. And furthermore, I think you also, Mr. Wilson, talked about the traffic counts. If traffic is a concern for these types of things, so you were saying 2.5 trips per 1,000 square foot for a storage area, I would think that if it were on the other side of the city, in a different location, that would be very little traffic on Central Drive, if any change in traffic on Central Drive. I don't see any reason why it would be a benefit necessarily to have it in the central core area. And I understand the applicant may want to put that in the central core area, but I don't think, again, that meets the qualities that we all love and choose to have because we live here in DuPont. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lisa Merkel. My husband and I are DuPont homeowners at 1471 Grant Avenue. I'm a nurse, Navy veteran, and mom. I am here today to learn more about the proposed zoning changes that will allow a storage facility to be built behind Forelli's, next to a daycare in the heart of our downtown. I have numerous concerns regarding the proposal changes. Decrease in property values, increase in crime, decrease in safety at the intersection, and the future of the storage facility. First, a main concern is decrease in homeowner property values. DuPont is marketed as a master planned community, which is a major appeal to homeowners. Look across the country at cities and communities that are master planned. They have higher resale values than neighboring communities, and they are often listed as the best cities to live list. If you change zoning laws to allow self-storage units to be built in our downtown instead of where they're currently allowed to build in the more industrial area of DuPont, you are jeopardizing our community and making us no different than Lakewood or Puyallup. Nothing against those cities, but they're not DuPont. One of the DuPont council people said that they can't, that zoning changes will allow different types of businesses to build downtown, and that they can't deny or approve specific businesses. My question is, why open the Pandora's box and allow businesses to build where they currently can't? That is a huge red flag and enough reason for me to strongly urge you to not change zoning. However, there are still other reasons. Second, the proposed location of the storage facility is one of the busiest intersections in DuPont. The DuPont Police Department currently placed orange safety flags at that intersection. And granted, you said it's low traffic, but we really need an increased traffic with large U-Haul and budget trucks, because when people have storage stuff, they bring it in their big trucks. So they might not be a lot of small cars, but it's a huge increase in large trucks. And it makes that intersection more dangerous to pedestrians. And admittingly, people driving the large trucks like U-Haul and budget are doing like military moves. They're not experienced drivers with large trucks. They're inexperienced large truck drivers. So do we really want inexperienced large trucks barreling through our downtown right next to a daycare facility and an intersection that already has orange flags because it is a dangerous intersection. Third, tied to safety, is a real concern that adding self-storage facility so close to I-5 will increase the chance for crime. Crime statistics from the self-storage facility industry show storage facilities have almost a 10% crime rate, and studies show their self-reported numbers are low. Numerous other studies done by news organizations, independent organizations, show that storage facilities increase crime, including trafficking, both illegal goods and human trafficking. Do we really want this type of facility next to a daycare in our downtown? Third, the concern for the future of the self-storage facility. I just moved last year from Boston, Massachusetts, and I am very familiar with high-rise indoor self-storage. I've rented one personally, and quite frankly, I don't know if you guys have ever rented one, but they're very inconvenient when compared to a typical self-storage, because when you're bringing your stuff in with a truck, I personally would never choose indoor storage versus normal self-storage, because you're bringing your goods in. I would just like to offload it in my car into the storage unit end of day. It was very cumbersome to load it onto a cart, push it down hallways, up elevators to the unit. That means it's not going to be, if it's not attractive to me, it's not going to be attractive to other people either. If it's not convenient, people don't want it. So is the business going to be thriving? I don't know. It could be, but businesses have come and go in DuPont, and there's a real chance that this business might not be everlasting because it's not as attractive as other self-storage options. So who does the home zoning change benefit? Military outside of DuPont, because I'm sure the guy who's done this study and who's proposing this realized JBLM, big opportunity for money, so it's going to benefit the military outside of DuPont, some DuPont residents, and most importantly, the proposed builder of the storage facility who's not a DuPont resident. I am very pro-business. However, there's already a zoned area in DuPont for storage-type facilities. And just making the outside of a storage facility attractive does not change the fact that it is a storage facility. And the saying goes, putting lipstick on a pig doesn't change the fact that it's a pig. I implore you, the planning committee, to please not change the zoning.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Courtney Blankenhorn. My husband and I are homeowners in Hudson Street. I want to concur with everything that the woman in front of me just said. That basically, we moved here because DuPont is a pre-planned community, or that was what we were told. But it seems as though every time we deviate from that plan, it doesn't work. I mean, thank you so much for Edmonds Village regarding the Project Granite. You basically tanked all our home values for that move. So instead of continuing on that path, let's correct our mistakes. The fact that this business has to be rezoned in order to be a part of this community should tell you that it doesn't belong here. And I really am rather insulted by some of the conversations from the people who spoke previously. It makes it sound as though the citizens of DuPont are uneducated idiots, because we all know what a storage facility looks like. You can make it look as pretty as you want. It looks like a storage facility, okay? Nobody's gonna drive by it and not know exactly what it is, all right? So we know it's a storage facility. Second of all, we don't want it. By telling us that it's gonna benefit all these people of DuPont, I've yet to be at one of these meetings where somebody stood at this podium and said, why can't we have another storage facility? That's never happened because the people don't want it, okay? We're telling you we don't want it. We don't need you to tell us what we want. We're telling you this is not a good idea, and we're asking you to please listen for once, okay? Project Granite, we did the same thing. This is like deja vu all over again. We begged you not to do this, and you did it anyways, and look what happened. So let's step back and really think about who benefits. Again, as the young woman before me stated, JBLM is going to be a huge benefit to this. But that's great for them, not so good for the citizens of DuPont who have to drive by it every day, who have to have their children go to school next to it every day. So let's do what we're supposed to do and benefit the citizens of DuPont and not the citizens of JBLM and the surrounding communities. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Rob Fiddler. I live at 2055 Simmons Street here in DuPont. Been here for 12 years, retired from the military. And I don't believe that putting an indoor storage facility in the center of town in DuPont would benefit any of the citizens of the city of DuPont. Bottom line. Tax revenue aside, it's not going to benefit the citizens of DuPont. Aside from all the other things that everybody previous to me has said, being in the military, I was in the military for 28 years. When we move in and out of places, we have very large moving trucks that move us in and out, up to 40-foot up to 40-foot trailers. And they don't just come to our homes. They will go from your home to a storage facility of your choosing and unload and load your equipment on your whatever it is that you're storing into that truck. So let's think about the impact of that also, having large trucks that we don't want going up and down Center Drive or Wilmington or McNeil in the first place, the impact that that's going to have. We can put anything we want to on a contract for a storage facility and what it is that you can store in that storage unit. It doesn't stop anybody from storing whatever it is that they choose to put in there unless they get caught. And then there are fines to be paid, but that's still not going to stop people from doing it. The safety of our children. My children go to Chloe Clark. They were born here. They'll be raised here. We're not going to go anywhere. But the value that an inside storage unit facility is going to bring to the citizens of DuPont that are here permanently, in my opinion, is zero. For the transient, I thought that I was going to be a transient citizen of the city of DuPont 12 years ago when I came here when I was stationed at Joint Base Elizabeth Ward. But I became a permanent resident. Now I'm retired. And like I said, my children were born here, they're being raised here. And it adds no value. If we want more storage, if we want another storage facility, we can place it somewhere else because there are places that are zoned for that in the city. Once again, it's a caveat on what the other folks have said. This was a master plan community. That's why so many of us moved here. Not because we wanted to be like the city of Lakewood, or the city of Lacey. Whether it's an indoor storage unit or an outdoor single-level storage unit, it's still a storage facility. Retail space, an Ace Hardware, regardless of what it's going to be. How much retail space does the city of DuPont currently have open? Anybody can drive around and look at the number of footprints that we have. They currently have nobody in them. If Ace Hardware or anybody else comes here for a retail space and they fail, what does the city of DuPont then again have? Another empty retail space. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Kara Mitchell, 2221 McDonald Avenue. I guess the new carrot that's being dangled out in front of us is now an Ace Hardware. I've lived here for 17 years plus, and that has been the longest time a grocery store. So we still don't have that, it's with the exception of the general store. So I've seen indoor storage facilities up in Sammamish, and while they can blend in with the surrounding buildings, once you're up close to the building, your hopes of finding some exciting retail shop completely evaporates and you're left deflated. Just because we have apartments nearby doesn't mean we should toss up a storage unit across the street. We have major respectable hotel chains being built in this city, attracting tourists, bringing people in, okay? Visitors cannot shop at a storage facility. Just thought I'd point that out. I am against this proposed text amendment to DMC 25.35. And we have a very limited retail space here in DuPont. And an indoor storage complex is non-conforming to the retail I'm against the proposed developers agreement that would allow the developer to only provide 25% retail space on the ground floor of the building instead of the current code, that's 80% of retail space. There's a reason that's there. Let's keep it there. This entire proposal could be viewed as spot zoning, and it's something the city needs to stay far away from. I would greatly appreciate if you guys would not forward this to council and completely disregard it altogether. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bridget King, 1473 Kitson Street. So we're here tonight talking about tailoring the code for a business. When we do that, there's always tertiary consequences. The most glaring example, literally and figuratively, was the Intel sign. We wanted Intel, so we adjusted our sign codes, and then we ended up with Amazon. So when we look at doing something big like rezoning, let's bear that in mind. Never just one thing. We don't need a storage facility, and I'm opposed. I'm not sure what's going on here. Do we want to put the land to its best use, or do we want to put the land to use right now? And it just seems like we're going to tailor it to a business that, well, I'm a hoarder, I probably could use it, but it wouldn't be good for me. But so do we want something that we don't really need, that isn't part of a cohesive town center? It's zoned the way it's zoned to be a town center. We had designated land areas for storage. If they're built out, they're built out, and that's that. Beware of tailoring things for a particular business. If we were gonna, I think somebody already said this, if we were gonna have an Ace Hardware store, they would have moved in already, built a facility and moved in. So I do think I also read that this would have a package and shipping facility, and the whole business would only employ 2 people on the 1.5 acres. The packaging and shipping competes with our post office, so that's just an aside. But please don't tailor something for a business that we don't need as part of our town center. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Teresa Winslow, and I'm not an owner of the Child Care Center, but I do work there. And I wanted to address a couple different things that some people have brought up. And one is there are other locations for a mini storage and an indoor storage. The one major part, if you could put up the grid, the city grid, of DuPont. Yes. I drive a very small car, and going through the exit onto Wilmington, I pop that corner all the time. There's just, the streets are narrow, they're not built for trucks of that magnitude or that many trucks to come in. We have had on the DuPont Learning Center site, we have had a large truck go in there, couldn't turn around, ended up knocking down one of our lights in the parking lot, and we've had another truck hit our building, which we don't know who hit it. Thankfully, one of our families did see the name of the truck that hit the light pole and did that damage. We do have buses in the morning, buses in the afternoon. We have buses midday for special needs children. I just can't see the amount of traffic going through there, the vehicles, and the safety issue. To rezone this, I think you would have to also redo a whole lot of streets. There's going to be damage. And I just don't see cars being able to, or trucks being able to maneuver through this small portion of downtown. Thank you.
Thank you. David Bunner, 2702 MacArthur Street, DuPont, Washington. First off, thank you, Drew, for coming to DuPont. With that said, on your SPIA, every adult in here knows what mathematical pi is, 3.14. Your SPIA is 19 pages of NA. Your SPIA closed for comment October 7th, 2016. You are now holding your public hearing. Everybody's comments are voided. Thank you. Commissioner Buck, thank you for summarizing it. It is 2 definitions and 1 applied location. DuPont is 5 square miles. Okay. All the people have said they don't want it. You can vote no. Drew, right here, at Center and Williamson, you'll have center drive views. You have 2 brand new industrial buildings. This one just went in, light industrial and retail to augment and attract business. Commissioners, please approve the definitions, but not the location. If you look at that map, this street mirrors that map and approve all the parcels on this intersection. Let's welcome developers. Let's work together. Please look at that. I think the citizens would all agree on that location. You can vote no. If you approve it, your 80% to 25, do not allow that. Don't allow any changes for the developmental agreement, because as soon as you do that, they can do anything they want. Let's serve DuPont as a whole. Thanks.
Thank you, Dan.
Hi, my name is Holly Jacoby. I live at 3479 Peterson Street in DuPont. That is my son, Louie. That is my daughter, Evelyn. They're both children at the DuPont Learning Center. As most of the other folks here, I oppose this project. I'm a military spouse. I've been in DuPont for 4 years. I'm an attorney. I'm a mom of 2. Those are the basic things about me. And here are the reasons why I don't think it's a good idea. As Jeff pointed out earlier, Mr. Wilson pointed out earlier, there are traditional storage locations within DuPont already. I don't think this is something that we really need here. He also pointed out that adding this, or I guess he took it and equated it to having an Albertsons, a loading dock. Again, I don't think we need a loading dock right near my children's childcare or anyone's children's childcare. Said it would only have 2.5 trips, or about 2.5 trips per day for this type of business use based on 1,000 square feet. As a military family member, I know that those trips to the storage unit often involve a lot of idling, sitting with your truck, running. Again, I don't want to have a bunch of exhaust by the childcare. I'm a Red Cross volunteer. I happen to volunteer for Superstorm Sandy out of New Jersey, and there were many untrained drivers delivering supplies in rented U-Hauls and Ryder trucks. And I know one of the other speakers had pointed out the issues that happen when you have people who are not trained driving these 10-foot, 26-foot trucks. We had buildings damaged, we had trucks damaged, we had people injured. It's not a good scenario when you have people who don't know how to drive large trucks driving large trucks. To the beautiful photos that the presenter provided, they are beautiful buildings aesthetically. In places like Columbia City and Rainier Beach, which are in dire need for beautification, I would not equate DuPont to an area that is in dire need of beautification. We have a beautiful city, and that's why I choose to live here. I thought before I came here that I would do a quick Google search to see, are we really deficient in storage around here? I thought I could come up with a number and give you a number and say, well, we have X number of storage around. They're too many to count. This is not a need in the area. No one's going to make or break themselves to drive to Lakewood, or to drive to Lacey, or to drive anywhere around. We do not need this in DuPont. Again, I'm a transient military member. I'll be gone soon, but I may return. I value this community. I value my time here as well. And as a military family member, I'm not sure how many of you are or how many of the other folks are here. Very rarely do we have the opportunity to live in a nice community that's near the base. Generally, the areas that surround the base are not the nicest. And it was incredible to be able to move into someplace right near where my husband works that wasn't run down. And I would hate to see that happen to our city. I've lived all over the country, all over the world. I've never seen a storage facility pop up in the middle of a planned community. It doesn't make any sense. I mean, if we want to get very down to the bottom line on that one, it doesn't make any sense. And that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Kevin Berger. I live on Foreman Road. Honestly, with all the comments that come up here today, most of the stuff that I could say would just be repeating myself. The question here, we build up a business, is location, location, location. This is obviously not location. But as it has been said, that there are businesses, there are better locations in DuPont. Yes, a storage facility here right next to the post would be profitable for the business, but not in the middle of the city. We've got a company, IBM, going out of business. What are we going to do with the property? That is big enough for a storage unit, big enough for a hardware store of mass if we wanted. But not in the middle here. I've got my Class A license. Anything that's driven 2,600 or so, you don't need a Class A license. But that's exactly what U-Haul will give anybody. They have no experience. Like I said, no matter what I say, it's going to be a repeat of what everybody's got. The real question, do the research about location. If you want to be able to achieve, you need to look at location and what's needed. Yes, DuPont is very close to a lot of areas that would bring business, especially for storage. Going all the way down to Lakewood, going all the way to Olympia, especially getting that choke point at 116, is terrible. There's so many other things we can put there. And as it said before, we've got so many empty businesses, slots, that nobody's taking. How has this been changing? Use what we have first, and then try to expand.
Thank you.
Casey Mounder, 1560 Sinclair Drive, DuPont. Also owner of McNeil City Smoothie. So I understand what you're doing. It's a great business opportunity downtown. Easy, people pointed it out, easy on, easy off freeway. I understand. Excited about having an Ace Hardware. I've lived here since 2007. I hate going to Home Depot all the time. It's not inconvenient, but it sure would be nice to go down the street. But with that being said, with everything else that everyone else pointed out, there's no reason to have this in the middle of town. There's reasons why we have these rules. Other thing is, you guys did bring it up. You guys brought up the storage facilities for the apartments. Obviously, Emerald City Smoothie is right there at DuPont tracks, and they are building the storage facility underneath. Those apartments won't use your storage facility, sir. Don't worry, you're building one. So just add that comment. I'm not going to say what everyone else has already said, but please listen to the community. That's why you guys are here, right? We're seeing in our nation what's happening because government is not listening to the people. Listen to everybody who's here. You said it, sir. When we first came in, you've never seen so many people here. No one here is for it. I have so many friends that live in this community that cannot make it because of sport activities and other reasons. They want to be here because they oppose it. It's not just us. Listen to us, please. And if you want to build a storage facility, Center Drive, Silton, be a great location. You can even have outdoor storage. I had a boat, I had to get rid of it because of legal reasons within the community. I'd love to have somewhere I can put my boat again. So, but not downtown. Not downtown, please. That's all I have.
Thank you. Any other public comments? I've seen none. Next opportunity is for the applicant. Mr. Mullins, you can come up and address some of the issues and give us some more information.
Thank you. Well, there's a lot that was brought up tonight. A couple of the concerns that I heard was storage of dangerous materials, hazardous materials, flammable. Those are prohibited in our lease. I think someone said that that doesn't prohibit anyone from storing them. That's true. I guess you could, if you absolutely wanted to store something. We're storing household goods, business goods. The reason that we want to be in the downtown corridor is, honestly, I looked at this piece of property. As many of you know that have been here and familiar with DuPont, it's been on the market for a long time. It's a great location. And the reason it's been on the market for a long time is because it doesn't work for retailers from an access perspective. The zoning that's there just doesn't work. So, I looked at initially, spoke to the seller, spoke to the city, approached the city about what I was looking to do, and got very positive reception as we went through the process. Some of the other things that were brought up were traffic impact. We literally have, I think the number was 2.55 visits per 1,000 square feet. On pretty much every one of these that I build now, we actually get an independent traffic impact study. So those are the national figures. I'm not sure how they come up with them, but on every recent facility that I've built, they've required an independent traffic impact study. And basically what they do is they have you look at multiple other stores in the vicinity, track them during their peak hours and see how many visits come, and kind of do the math and figure out how many visits per 1,000 square feet. On all of our traffic impact studies, we've come down much lower than that in terms of number of visits per 1,000 square feet. We're literally the lowest traffic impact of any commercial use. So in terms of having rental trucks and so forth, yeah, people are going to use rental trucks and moving trucks to move their stuff in and out. That is part of it. In terms of the safety aspect, this particular site, because of the small lot, would not have a budget or a U-Haul truck rental, but we do have that at some of my other sites, and I'll tell you that very infrequently do we see accidents from them. People, for one reason or another, they tend to be very careful driving rental trucks. The only accidents that we've seen are, backing into bollards and, going in under bridges that are too low, which is, unfortunate. But so I guess the one thing that I would say here is, I'm a father myself. I have twin 4-year-old boys. And when I first began this process, once it sort of looked like it would, the city was looking at it and they would consider a text amendment, one of the first things I did is I met with Jason, the owner of the child care facility that I know many of your children go there. And that was one of the first things they brought up. One of the things that we discussed was safety and access and the measures that we take to ensure that the safety of children is not put at risk. So, I don't know that this will change the public's view on this. If this is something where you don't want storage in your downtown, really what this comes down to is I know the city would love to see a grocery store in that area. And if that were the proposal, none of these comments would be coming out. Or if there was a standalone hardware store. It can't support that use by its own. If it was, someone over the last 7 or 8 years would have done it. I'm sure with time, somebody will take a swing at it and find a way of making it work. But right now, based on what I was able to see that works on the property, that was a way to get the retail in, to get the Ace hardware in. So thank you for all coming out and making your comments about this. If any of you wish to speak with me after the meeting, I'm glad to do so. Thanks for taking time out of your evening. I appreciate it.
Thank you, dear. Staff, do you have any additional information to put out before we bring the public hearing portion to a close?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There are just a couple of comments I'd like to respond to just for matters of clarification. Again, this proposal or this review right now does not approve a specific use, a specific design, or even any of the aspects that go along with that. We're just looking at whether or not we want to provide flexibility in our zoning designation for the area to allow the potential for, not approving, not guaranteeing, allows the potential for. Which true of any zoning designation, they're going to be very broad, very restrictive, in some cases very nebulous in terms of what they actually mean. This is just providing some clarity as to one particular type of use. Therefore, the environmental analysis that was done on this is only done on the text amendment portion of the code. It doesn't analyze a specific proposal, doesn't analyze specific calculations regarding traffic. It analyzes simply what is the net effect when you have an area already identified as commercial, you have one other type of use. Is it consistent? Are there any more or less impacts than would have been foreseen during the original environmental determination was issued compared when the zoning classification was developed for this particular area? So I want to clarify that. There are 2 stages to the environmental review process and the SEPA process. Something I've done for the last 35 years as SEPA responsible official for numerous jurisdictions throughout the state. This is just looking at the text amendment. Any specific development proposal, doesn't matter what it is, doesn't matter if it's another daycare, doesn't matter if it's a grocery store, does not matter if it's a gas station, an office building, whatever it may be, will have to go through its own independent analysis based on the particular use that's being proposed, where we do specific analysis based on that use, that traffic generation, that type of activity, how it fits in or doesn't fit in with the community, what impacts it may or may not create, and how we can mitigate those impacts if possible. And if we can't mitigate those impacts, we identify that as well. But that's based on a specific proposal. We can look at things such as traffic, we can look at things such as traffic circulation, we can look at things as different types of vehicles, how we buffer from adjoining uses, what sort of protections need to go in place depending on whatever that particular proposal is. But I just want to make sure it's clear that in the environmental review process, there are actually 2 stages in this aspect. And Mr. Bungert, that was just a closure of the environmental analysis on the text amendment. It doesn't negate anything that's brought up here as testimony. It's just on that environmental determination. Testimony here is all relevant and all goes forward to the city council.
I have another comment section.
With respect to, there were some comments regarding not being able to see retail. There's still the underlying requirement that retail be provided on this property, be provided on the ground floor. every building we have in that area provides retail on the ground floor. So whatever happens above it, right now it can be office, right now it can be apartments, it can be a whole number of different activities occurring above the first floor, but on that first floor, we have that minimum 80% retail requirement. Again, the flexibility that's built into the code to ask for something different doesn't guarantee anything, allows the city to actually put a lot of conditions on any sort of changes it may wish to make or allow under a development agreement, but it doesn't guarantee that the applicant has the right. Their fundamental responsibility is to meet the code first, and if not, it gives them an opportunity to seek some flexibility, but does not guarantee any flexibility. That approval, that responsibility, that agreement all rests to a separate independent public process through the city council. It's fully transparent, fully identifiable, will identify specifically what's being proposed and what specific, if any, actions would be necessitated in order to grant that approval of that deviation. So there are, again, that's a separate process that has to occur, so you can't assume or presume what may or may not happen based on just a simple amendment of the text of the code itself. Regarding, I think there's some concern regarding the storage. I know that the applicants indicated that they have lease requirements. We, in the review of the building, any building that comes in the city, whether it's a gas station, which is presently permitted outright on that same property, or storage may occur on the second, has to be reviewed under the International Building Code requirements that the city has adopted, International Fire Code, so we look at all aspects of what goes into the design, the protections of that building, not only for the use of that building, but also surrounding properties. Because when we look at those things and the types of use classifications that occur, the occupancy classifications, it changes the different code requirements based on occupancy and use classifications, not only that property, but also what may be occurring in the proximity to make sure that the design and all the protections in place. And again, it doesn't matter whatever that use may be, whether it's a hardware store, grocery store, gas station, or a restaurant. They all have different components built into those uses that we need to make sure that we look at in the building code review and analysis to make sure that it is a safe building, not only the occupants of that building, but also how it protects the adjoining, how it protects the adjoining properties, because we need to take that into consideration. Again, this is simply looking at the process of whether or not we should look at some flexibility of the code. There's no guarantee as to what or if anything would be approved. The process at this point forward, commissioners, you review, you take in the testimony, you can make a recommendation or several recommendations to forward it on to the city council. The city council will then take some action after they have their own public hearing and another opportunity for public participation and comments, maybe even additional clarifications from the applicant based on the comments that you raised tonight. You can bring clarifications forward for the rest of the issues you may raise, depending on what goes forward. But that's kind of a short overview of kind of the review of the process moving forward. Any change is always difficult. Any change always opens up opportunity. It always also raises questions and concerns. This is not, again, an approval of a specific project, just approval of a path that someone can explore with no guarantees of any success. That's true of any of our zoning designation. It provides opportunities. But again, if everybody felt that they provided the right opportunities, everything would be fully developed at one time at this point in time. Things change over periods of time, and we review and we analyze because needs and change in certain areas in the review to make sure you have the most current codes as possible, the most current opportunities as possible. I'm glad that people are passionate about what happens in the community. It's great to have public participate. I have sat in too many meetings where public does not show up. I'd rather have you show up and ask hard questions and get the answers that you want or get the answers to your questions than to not participate at all and be concerned about something that happens after the fact because you didn't participate. I strongly encourage at any point in time, if there's questions regarding this proposal, any proposal, as I can be reached, I'm happy to answer any question and give you all the detailed information if you want to seek on any particular project, and even in relationship to this, because as this may or may not move forward to the city council, please come down, see me, give me a call, we can look at it, we can talk more specifically about it, or get, I'm happy to do that, and that's what I'm here for, and I want you to participate in that process, because that's what results in a better outcome. Commissioner, I don't know if you have any questions regarding if I missed anything specific in some of the testimony that you raised, but if there's anything else, if you have a question, you have to answer.
Thank you, Jeff. At this time, this closes the public hearing portion of the meeting. The commissioners will now go into our deliberation phase, where this is your opportunity to ask staff or ask Mr. Bowles or each other if you have any requests for any further information. I just like, one question I got, Jeff, is with the current zoning as it exists today, and you mentioned that a gas station could theoretically go in there, what other types of businesses is that area currently zoned for?
Oh, well, let me take a moment real quick and just kind of take a look at, obviously you know that you can put restaurants, because most half our mixed use zone has restaurants. Number of service type facilities, I mean, we've got a number of fast food restaurants, we have a small little, not really a grocery store, but the small commercial building provides some limited grocery activities. We have restaurants, we have a pharmacy downtown right now, other types of clinics or doctor offices may or may not be permissible. Let me get right to and the way our code is written, it's written in a very short sense here because it also references uses that are permitted in other activities. So our commercial, it references the underlying uses permitted in a commercial zone. Or commercial zone, I think a lot of people know by Parksdale Station, exit I think 119, that's identified as being commercial. We have hotels, we have fast food, we have, I think there's some dental offices that are located there, local restaurants, other businesses that are located there, there's a gas station located up there as well. The only thing that's just kind of interesting in terms of some strong prohibitions has to do with drive-through businesses in our mixed-use zone. It provides a separation of drive-through businesses in terms of how close they can locate to each other in proximity. But basically any use that's permitted in our commercial district is permitted in our mixed-use district. And in the commercial district, we provide for any sort of retail trades, such as store shops, sales offices, etc. Those are listed in that are restricted. Again, that has to be more than drive-through businesses. We provide all forms of service businesses other than adult entertainment, such as hotels, entertainment facilities, restaurants, clinics, banks, professional offices, service stations. Provides residences on the second floor or higher of the building. Provides for adult family homes. Provides for family daycare, child care centers, offices, quasi-public uses, drive-through windows. There's a prohibition based on proximity to another drive-through type of business. Wireless communication facilities, open air vending. Those are all kind of broad, and so when you look at any form of retail use, that's incredibly open-ended in terms of describing what it may be.
Now, is that the property owner, as long as it is a business that meets the code, as you just outlined, can they just come in and build it without any sort of public hearings like we're doing right now?
For the most part, I mean, that's a great question. Let me give you a second to kind of go through it. They would need a building permit. They would need to go through a design review process. It looks at not the use of the property, but only how the exterior of the building is designed to fit in with their design parameters. There are very few things in here that would allow us to look at the use. We would look at things such as aesthetics, we would look at things such as parking, we would look at things such as landscaping, and there is some process involved in that. Some of it's at the administrative level, some we provide for public opportunity for public comment, but it's going to be limited to some very specific aspects of it, such as the materials and the color, whether trellises are provided, whether there's something provided that provides some sort of modulation of the building. Those things would be identified and reviewed as part of the process. But whether or not it is a pharmacy, a grocery store, a hardware store, or anything else of that nature, a bank, whatever it might be, no, it's not looking at the use, it's only looking at design. The only place that we have the flexibility of looking at the specific use that might occur, again, depending on the size of the building, is through the environmental review process, in which case we look at impacts and whether or not the impacts can be mitigated or not. But it doesn't get to the specific use, it looks at what impacts that use might create, and then how we might address those things to make sure that it does not create a negative or adverse impact. It can either be done through mitigation or through some design changes or whatever. It's very difficult to say no to the use, because the use in itself is committed by the underlying zoning classification. I hope that answers your question.
It does, thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioners, any other questions? Okay, at this time, we'll take a vote whether to, we're going to take a
Motion first.
a vote, yeah.
I'll make one motion to update our definitions, to move the definitions of storage to one location under S, and to include a definition for mini storage and the definition for indoor storage, as we have in our packet. So this is just a motion to update our definitions.
Second.
I'll second that.
Are you proposing that we bring this forward to the city council as is?
I'm proposing that we bring an update to our definitions to the city council so that our definitions have storage under S and have a definition of indoor storage which limits hazardous materials, et cetera, which actually denies hazardous materials.
Thank you.
So this is just for the definition, nothing about changing the zone, just for the definition, correct?
Mr. Chair, if I could ask for clarification, just because I think that the two sections of the code that you're referring to is to amend Municipal Code Section 2510.130, which is the M definitions, that would delete some terminology, and then under 25.10.190 under the S definitions, it would add in those definitions in that section. I just want to make sure I'm clear so we have it clear for the record.
Right, moving the definitions for storage to under S and including the definition as in our package for indoor storage with the definition also for mini storage, which puts them in different parts of the code, but puts them under S so that the public can find any definition for storage.
Yeah, I'll second that.
All right, all in favor to Commissioner Buck's proposal, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say no.
No.
We have 4 ayes and 1 no. The motion carries. Will that motion, will that preclude us voting on?
Nope, you can go through this.
So that's two separate
That you
tracks.
want, that's just going to be one of 25 or 30 or 50, or 2.
All right, at this time, someone introduce a motion to forward the recommendation to the city council for the proposed text amendment as we've discussed this evening?
I would like to recommend that we do not forward this to City Council. I think we've heard some really good comments this evening, and as I look back to the original our comp plan, it talks about a vibrant, pedestrian-friendly, livable community, and I fail to see that. Well, actually, our mixed use, as it currently stands, is pretty broad, as Jeff just listed all of the businesses that can be accommodated in our current definition. It's pretty broad. And so the only big change with this one is an indoor storage facility and the elimination of the 80-20 retail. So personally, I think our mixed use designation is pretty good and we should keep it.
I agree with you. I would propose that the motion be worded as a motion to forward this to the council to avoid all negatives. So we're not voting no on a no.
I think
so if we make the proposal, my motion is to forward this recommendation to the council,
Yes.
then you could vote no and not forward it to the council, as opposed to making a motion to not forward to the council, at which point you have to vote yes to not send it to the council. That's all.
So, Mr. Chair, if I just add a question of clarification. So right now, you only have one motion you approved, which that would be forwarded to the council. And that's the only thing that would be forwarded to the council in terms of action of the planning commission.
Correct. A motion to approve on a up or down, yes or no vote.
Well, no, you just moved to approve the amendment of the code regarding definitions. The council,
Correct.
yeah, and that gets forwarded to the council, and that's what they will then consider.
Correct.
So I understand the question. So the concern here is that we've got a double negative. We're going to have to vote yes when I think the intention of this commission is to vote no. So I make a motion to forward this proposal to the city council for consideration. Do I have a second?
I'm looking at Jeff, and right now we're just talking about the change in definitions. Are we forwarding that?
That
Or are
action's
you-
already been taken.
That action's already been taken. So now we're looking at.
The motion
what are we
is,
proposing?
the motion is to forward the proposal to allow the indoor storage facility to the city council. That is the motion.
You need rezone in there.
So, Mr. Chair, let me see if I can kind of help navigate through the process. You have one motion that just amends the definitions portion and forwards that to the council. Commissioner Brown is proposing to, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, so make sure you stop me if I'm incorrect. You're proposing, I guess one question clarification, are you proposing to approve a motion to approve the recommendations that were provided in the staff report, which is to approve the definitions of the indoor storage, to approve the new zoning classification, and to rezone property? And part of it, I think that's where some of the confusion may lay.
No, I'm not approving, or I'm not motioning to approve right now a rezoning of anything, because I think we as a planning commission need to take a better look at what our original city planners had for the intent of our town, of our DuPont. And we need to make sure that our code and our usage is correct. I think right now we're focusing on a specific parcel, and we should be looking at the holistic use of what's left of our city property with regards to retail, with regards to building a vibrant downtown, with regards to using and building incentives for using space that already exists that is vacant. So I think holistically, we as a city council need to go back to the drawing board on defining our land use. So at this point, I don't have a motion to forward rezoning anything to the city council.
Right. So that's why I'm asking for clarification, because the way your motion came about was to approve what was sent before you. And so if the only action that you want to forward on to the council is the definitions portion, which is, at least of the 4-1 vote to approve that, that will be forwarded to the council. They will take action on just that particular portion of it to approve the amendments